What is up, yo? Welcome to another episode of Into the Necrosphere. We are up to episode number 10, which, as TubeBuddy, a very useful application if you're ever going to start a YouTube channel of your very own, tells me is a landmark. So if you have been with us since the very beginning, or at least for most of it, then thank you very, very much for the support. If this is your first time checking out Into the Necrosphere, then the great news is there is a growing archive of awesome stuff for you to check out, including interviews with Lee Orsifer, Jeremy Wagner, Sam Loynes, Nathaniel Underwood, who else? A bunch of other guys, including coming up today, my interview with Johan Nordlund of This Gift is a Curse out of Sweden. This Gift is a Curse, in my opinion, put out one of the most violent and aggressive records of the entire year with A Throne of Ash, which I think came out in either June or July. And then weirdly, when you speak to Johan, as you guys are going to see from the chat, he is probably one of the most placid and peaceful guys you could ever come across in your entire life. But if you haven't heard the album yet, I'm going to be playing a couple of clips of it over the course of our conversation. I implore you to check it out because it really, really is well worth your time, especially if you're into kind of black metal with a hardcore edge. There's not all that many bands like that around anyway. But these guys just do the combination and the blend so well, and they richly deserve all the praise they are receiving for this new album. Also coming up in the show, what I'm cranking this week. I know last week there wasn't one because of the top 10 horror countdown taking nearly 2.5 hours, but there's plenty to talk about this week. Before I get to that, however, just the usual reminder, if you want to support the show, show me some love by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel on YouTube, leaving a comment, sharing the video, or if you check this out on iTunes, Stitcher, or any of the other fine, reputable podcasting services that carry us, then you can subscribe on there. And the wonderful thing about that is that it means that every Tuesday you will receive fresh and shiny on your mobile device or tablet or laptop or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, a brand new episode of Into the Necrosphere. So I will leave you with that. But for now, would you please welcome to the show for the very first time, Mr. Johan Nordlund of This Gift is a Curse. Into the Necrosphere. I am going to come out hot right from the start, and I'm going to ask you, how does it feel to be a member of a band that, in my opinion, has recorded probably some of the most violent and angry music that has been committed to record in maybe the last decade, and possibly even the last 2 decades?
Oh, yeah, really glad you enjoy it, and it feels good. But the thing is, like, we've been speaking about this quite a lot recently in the band, since people are writing in a lot of reviews and everything that, oh, this is so extremely aggressive, and fuck, this is so nasty and evil. But I don't, since we play it, it doesn't really feel that way. I feel like, but this is some harsh music, of course, but not that violent as some of the other music we listen to. But then people they tend to speak about that thing. But for me, it feels like, it's strange. I don't feel that it's so evil and so vicious. But I'm really happy that people see it that way.
Well, this is the thing. The response to this album is what I'm so fascinated by, because some of the descriptions in the reviews, I think one review called it extreme mental violence. Another one said it's physically exhausting to listen to it. And I think one person described it as the music that makes God afraid to go back to heaven. I mean, I don't even really know what that means, but I've rarely heard people, most people go, oh, it's an amazing album, so innovative, experimental, blah, blah. But I've never heard people get that eloquent about kind of one emotional aspect of an album, and they sort of seem to all sort of be honing in on the anger.
Yeah, no, but it's super strange. Like we play music that we enjoy, and of course we wanted to sound ferocious and evil, but I never thought of it as that evil as people actually seem to think about the album some kind of way. So it's always like a surprise to read those kind of things, like,
yeah,
those guys must be so fucking dark and evil and blah, blah, blah.
Well, so again, funny you mentioned that, because the first thing that made me want to speak to you is I always speak to someone from the band, is I started following you on Instagram, and I got the two impressions. One was that you all seem genuinely surprised by how positive everybody is about the new record. Mm-hmm. But secondly, the way in which you speak, and I think the communication style seems so friendly and upbeat. And I was like, what is going on here? It's like these guys are either complete psychos, or this is like one of those things where you're like Attila from Mayhem, where it's, complete darkness on stage, and then as soon as he comes off, he's this normal, softly spoken dude. So where do you kind of, where does all this come from? Where does this, where does the rage on the new record and actually the previous albums come from? Tell me a bit more about what makes up This Gift Is a Curse.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I think as different members see it kind of differently. Like, I know the singer, for example, and the bass player, they think about it as some kind of therapy, that this is something they actually need to do to feel better, to, I don't know, canalize their inner demons and that kind of shit. But for me, I just enjoy playing fucking heavy metal music and fast drums and everything. I think it's mostly fun.
Yeah. And you this band got started. My understanding is when you and Jonas, the singer, kind of, I think the bio says, accidentally bumped into each other at a bar or something. How did things get started?
Yeah, I moved here to Stockholm from a small town called Piteå, far up north in Sweden, back in 2008, I think it was, like January. And I went to a concert with like a post-rock band, and the singer had this, I don't know, lumberjack shirt on, and I thought the show was fucking amazing. And then I saw that shirt in the bar later on when I was buying beer. I thought, like, hey, go up and speak to him and say that it was a really good show. Then it was Jonas, actually, who wore the same shirt, and said, sorry, I thought you were the singer from the band. Then we started to speak, drank some beers, got drunk, and seems that both, actually, he recently moved here from Djevel, another town a bit far up north, and he's been playing in this hardcore band, Grizzly Twister. And I was playing in...
This is a fucking awesome name for a band.
Grizzly Twister. And I was playing in some kind of Cult of Luna sludge band back in Piteå. And we got drunk and we decided to start a band, as all musicians do when they get drunk.
Yeah.
So we changed phone numbers, and Jonas knew a bass player who knew a guitar player, and then we just met and started to make some music. So it was just a coincidence, actually.
At what point did you know that there was genuine musical chemistry between the two of you? Was it kind of something you felt instantly in the first time you guys rehearsed together, or did it develop over time?
It developed a bit over time, because when we started, Jonas, was more into this hardcore thing, listened to Converge and a lot of hardcore stuff. And I never really listened to that kind of music. I grew up a lot with black and death metal and all that kind of shit. So at first we started out as some kind of crazy Converge mismatch kind of way. But then the more we played, like the first demo we wrote, it was more like chaotic hardcore. But then I tried to influence a bit. Should we take some more like metal aspects to to the thing, and then it grew upon us, and we turned more and more to like the metal way of playing and doing stuff. And especially like when David came in, I think this new record is the most, I don't know, riff based, the most metal-ish record so far.
Yeah. Oh, no, definitely. It's also, I think, for as much as people say this is really angry, it feels like it's definitely the most nuanced thing you guys have ever done. Like I was listening to the first record yesterday just to compare the two again. The first album to me sounds kind of like Burnt by the Sun cover songs done by Mayhem. So it's like, you know what I mean? There's like that crazy chaotic hardcore element, and almost that sort of power violence element to it, and then this real very noticeable hint of black metal. And then on this, kind of 2 albums on, and this record feels more nuanced, more layered. I think it feels a lot more emotional. And it also feels like the band have really, really found their voice on this record. So talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, first of all, I'm glad to hear that you like the development and everything. Well, I don't know. I think like you always, as a band, you always want to like take a step forward, and you don't really want to make the same record twice. And it's quite hard to find new ways to do that, like incorporate other stuff. We tried on Swine Lord with choirs and I like everything, but we didn't really want to do that on this record. More to focus it on like being raw, fast, ferocious. And I think a lot of like we are better musicians now than we started, and we incorporated this. I never actually played double kick.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that. I read an interview with Jonas, I think from 2012, and I couldn't believe what I was reading, because I think he mentions there, oh yeah, our drummer Johan is only recently started playing double bass. I was like, what?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, of course, when I started playing drums a long time ago, I bought this double pedal, but I was really, because we listen to a lot of black metal with fast double kicks, but I was really shit. And I thought like, oh, no, skip it.
Yeah.
And then when we started to play this Cult of Luna-ish sludge thing, you never felt the need for the double kick, so I put it away. And when we started, I was trying to challenge myself in a bit, like, hey, can we play this kind of extreme music and not incorporate double kick drums in it? And it worked, to be honest. But then when we were writing the new songs, they were starting to nag me a bit, like, is it possible for you to maybe try to play some double bass? And I was like, hell no. Managed quite good without it so far, I don't really want to buy one. But then when David came along, there were like 3 persons just like, oh, should try this double kick. And I thought like, okay, maybe it's time.
Were they subtle about it? Did they like put on an album and go, man, you hear that double bass, but fuck, it sounds incredible?
Yeah, but a bit. At first they were subtle. But then it came like, hey, you should buy one. And in the end, like, my friend David went on and started sending like links to music sites, like, hey, have you seen this one? And then I felt like, okay, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah. How did you find the adjustment?
The adjustment?
From going from, having played with our double bass to kind of switching to double bass. Yeah,
it was a bit strange. Because first, I didn't really want to incorporate it doing all those kind of rumbles and shit. Yes, and not. I think too many bands suffer from this really fast double kick, like ruining everything. Look at me, this is super cool. We can play super fast. So more, make it a bit subtle into the music, not overdo it and not using it all the time, and just trying to keep it there. But it was, it took some time to actually get used to playing it. But it was quite okay. Like I've been used to stomp some hi-hat, like keeping the time, so the left foot was quite used.
Yeah, and again, funnily enough, after I read that interview, I actually listened very carefully to your drums on the earlier album, because I was like, I hadn't actually noticed originally that you don't have one, and as you say, you've kind of gotten by without any issues. Mm-hmm. And then when I was listening to it again, I noticed that, but I also noticed how crazy technical some of your drum lines are, and it made me think. I mean, how long have you been drumming for?
Oh, since I was 15, and I'm 34 now.
Yeah.
So some years, but I never really, I haven't really practiced that much, sadly. Yeah. I always keep telling myself, hey, you should practice more. But I only play drums when we rehearse, and sometimes, like when we recorded the album, we recorded the drums in February, and then I didn't sit behind my drum kit until August or something, I think.
So where does this ridiculous talent come from? Because I mean, as I said, and I'll have a couple of clips in between the interview when I post it, so people will be able to hear. But your drum lines are just, some of it's insane. It's like, I mean, I'm trying to think who I can compare it to, but I mean, maybe the drummer from Dillinger Escape Plan, just in terms of how sort of frenetic and crazy it is. But I was about to ask you,
he is in a completely different league, though.
Yeah,
fucking insane drummer, so technical. No, but I don't know. But the thing is, like, I listen a lot to, apart from metal, of course, but a lot to like pop music and shoegaze and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I mostly got influenced by pop drummers and tried to incorporate that play style into metal to make it a bit more interesting, because of course, if you play metal, super fast, super da-da-da, but quite static, and I don't really enjoy listening to a lot of metal drummers. Of course, they are impressive, but I prefer some good beats and some like groovy stuff that pop people can do, and then just switch it around, make it into something metal.
Yeah.
Credit to our music. So I think that's one part.
Yeah.
I don't really listen to that pure metal drummer, more pop and groove and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely do think I had a similar conversation with Lee from Malevolent Creation, and we were talking about drummers and kind of just I guess what separates our favorite drummers from other people in the scene. And I think when you become too technical or too reliant maybe on click tracks or I think just too reliant on traditional kind of metal drumming tropes, it becomes very sterile, and it takes a lot of the feeling away. And actually, some of the best drum performances, for me personally, are on records like the first Deicide album, where there are so many mistakes, and yet it's just, there's so much conviction and just so much I wouldn't say emotion, but just so much aggression and so much power behind it. Actually, the mistakes almost make it even better.
Yeah. And so much feeling about it as well. Like we grew up with all these different black metal albums from when I was younger, and so many bad drummers, but so much feeling and so cool feels and like everything. And I think it's super nice. Instead of this like studio produced shit where you can hear like the drumming's been clipped and fixed and everything, and then when you see them perform live, it's nothing like on the album, and it's so boring. So I try to play the things I can play mostly, and not. I don't want to feel embarrassed when playing live because I cannot really live up to the album, so to speak.
So what got you into the drums?
Well, started to listen to a lot when I was 13, I think, and started a new school. A classmate of mine gave me a tape of Dismember's Massive Killing Capacity. Mm-hmm. And it was the first death metal album I heard, and I thought, this is fucking amazing. And then in my school, there were so many metalheads, and people were constantly like tape trading and borrowing out records and everything. And we started listening to a lot of like that, not that much black metal then, because it was considered a bit uncool. Like, hey, you have to listen to this. Yeah. Should listen to death metal, no black metal shit. This is so bad, and you cannot listen to this. I was like, okay, I was 13. I was like, okay, let's listen to this death metal. Yeah. And then I was mostly listening to the drums, actually. And I thought, like, drums, this seems really cool. Listen to this guy, like this fast beats and double bass and everything. I want to play this. And then I convinced my father to buy me a drum kit. It took some years though, but when I was 15, I got a drum kit, and then I started.
You finally convinced. Can you play any other musical instruments?
I can cheat a bit on piano, but I played piano from when I was 7 to 13, I think. But we had this it was so fucking boring. We had this Christian piano teacher playing Christian music, and I thought, this is so dull. I hate this. So when I turned 13, I thought, like, hey, let's give this up. And I'm a bit bummed about that today.
Yeah.
Because would love to be able to play piano and synthesizer.
Yeah. So my mom was a piano teacher for the vast majority of my youth. So I grew up around classical music. I grew up around the piano, and I was going to ask you the being able to play the piano, or having had that experience. I wonder whether that doesn't kind of contribute or at least help cultivate a natural musicality. Or a natural sort of a natural feeling for music. I feel like the piano is one of the instruments that, really for me is certainly the most emotive. And I actually, and I can concur with what you're saying there. The one thing I'm very, very sorry I never did was getting my mom to teach me. But then I would also have been in the same boat that you were in. I would have had to play Amazing Grace and things like that.
Yeah, this kind of songs you didn't want to play.
Be like, Mom, teach me some Burzum. I don't think she would have been.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And of course, when you started to listen to Death and kind of stuff, then piano felt a bit, I don't know, a bit silly. Until you started to listen to this, like, Emperor tunes with all the synthesizers and everything. Then it got a bit cool again. But then I was completely into drums and felt like, hey, I have to focus on this.
I'm so curious about what you said about black metal being uncool, though. What year was that? That's like 1993, 94?
Oh, no. It was late. It must have been like 99, I think.
Okay.
1999. Now, I have no idea, actually, because people didn't really tend to like black metal at the school until, like, I met this guy on a ski trip called Jens. I think it was 2 years older than me. And I got this record by a Swedish band called Vinterland, Welcome to My Last Chapter. And it was black metal, this melodic thing. And I thought it was amazing. And I was like, hey, this is much better than Dismember and everything. How come people think this isn't cool? Then I went out on the internet and I started to download a lot of black metal songs, but I kept it a bit quiet for the fans.
Undercover black metal fan.
Yeah, exactly. But then when 1-2 years after that, we were completely into black metal.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, as far as my transition is concerned, I also, I kind of, metal for me was discovered AC/DC, then Metallica, then Slayer, Pantera, Sepultura. Then I heard Bolt Thrower. I got The Bleeding by Cannibal Corpse. All of those classics. But the big kind of shift for me into, I still love a lot of metal, a lot of death metal, but the big shift for me to black metal was hearing In the Nightside Eclipse. The second that intro started, I was just like, this is the greatest thing I have ever heard in my entire life.
But it's still one of my favorite black metal records. I think it's so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's super, super good.
It's so, the thing about it is it's so raw and there is so much depth on it. And the most fucking insane thing about it is those guys are 16 and 17 years old.
Yeah, and so good at playing their instruments, writing those fucking songs. It's completely insane.
Yeah.
I love it.
So the Swedish scene then, it has shifted pretty seismically, I would say, over the, probably over the last kind of 2 decades, because obviously you had a lot of really good black metal bands come from there. And then everything sort of quieted down a little bit, at least as far as that scene is concerned. I feel now like a lot of the really cool stuff coming out of Sweden is sort of interesting hybrids of different genres, and a little bit like you guys are. I mean, just, what is the scene like there right now? Do you guys fit into that scene, if at all?
Well, it's hard to say. At least in Stockholm, it's not really that flourishing, I must say. We have some bands, but not that many concerts, like extreme metal concerts, especially not with bands from Sweden. We're playing on this kind of small festival now on Saturday in Småland called, I think it's Mörkas Småland, with some Swedish bands like Skogen and Istapp and those kind of things. But otherwise, I think the scene is, I can't say it's flourishing.
But like, if At the Gates were to play a show, how many people would they draw to a show?
Oh, I have no idea. But we're going to play with At the Gates on a festival in November.
Oh, that's fucking awesome.
Like the first weekend. So I can tell you, I can write you a message.
I was about to say, count them and let me know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, but not that much, to be honest. Like in Stockholm, approximately 300 people, perhaps.
Jeez, seriously?
Yeah. People are mostly listening to this kind of strange house and this electronic stuff nowadays. Yeah. So it's not that much metal concerts in Stockholm, and so many venues are closing down, sadly, like because the city's the gentrification is going on, and a lot of neighbors are like moving from more quiet places into the city and starts complaining about the venues making too much sound and everything. So many places have to turn down because neighbors are complaining. They are rebuilding it to be apartments and that kind of stuff instead. So now I think the scene in Stockholm is super, super boring nowadays.
Yeah. And like I said, that's such a shame because I grew up in South Africa, and the image that you always had of Sweden was that it was kind of like a baby brother to Norway. But I mean, there were a lot of bands that came from Sweden that we loved and that I still love. I mean, Marduk, Funeral Mist. I mean, so much good stuff from there. Yeah. And still, I mean, there's still really, really good bands coming from there.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of like good underground bands and that kind of thing, but they seldom perform live. And the bands that do, I don't know, they're pushed into smaller venues and not so many people are attending, sadly.
Yeah. So you guys don't really play live all that much either, though.
No, we played quite a lot when we released like the first album, and a bit when we released the second. But now things are changing, and I think like we played a release show. Was it the last weekend or 2 weekends ago? But it was the first show in a year, actually. But it's because there was so much things going on. We wanted to release the album, not tour and like old songs and that kind of things, and it took more time than expected to actually record and release it. And then life is catching up on you in some kind of strange way. Like I became a father 2 months ago, for example. So it's
wow! So 2 months.
yeah.
Which is why you look like you're missing sleep.
Yeah. Too much work. Too little sleep.
I was about to say it's probably too early then to ask what your daughter, your daughter, right? Yeah, what your daughter thinks of This Gift Is a Curse.
Yeah, a bit early, sadly, but I hope she will like it.
No, well, I have a I have a 5-year-old, and I think the thing that's the most interesting for me about her and her relationship to music, she absolutely loves music, and she'll sit and kind of sing at the table, and I mean, I can play the most brutal stuff, and you'll hear her kind of like harmonize over it. But what's super interesting is the stuff that she actually likes is things that she'll pick up by chance, and then she's very kind of definite in what her tastes are. So she loves Susie and the Banshees. She heard me play that in the car once. Love that. Then I was playing Killing Joke in the car, and I was playing War Dance, and I just saw her singing in the back seat. So loves Killing Joke. She loves Terror. She loves Paradise Lost. So she's got it's a very very eclectic taste, but really really defined. When she was young, and this is how you'll know if your little ones are going to be into the heavy stuff. The song she used to love most was "Walk" by Pantera, and she would I'd drive her, and "Walk" would play, and as soon as it finishes, then all I hear in the back seat is just her repeating "Walk." Walk until I switch it back on again. But yeah.
I hope she will like that as well, like the more heavier stuff, because my girlfriend is more into hip-hop music. Things. And I would prefer if she would actually listen to metal.
I was about to say, so you've got some backup in the house. What does your girlfriend think about your band?
She thinks it's nice that we actually play in a band, but she doesn't really enjoy the music. So to speak. Yeah. Of course, she comes to some concerts and she can appreciate it live. Yeah. But when I turn on some black metal and shit at home, she's not too satisfied. Not that she I can't say she hates it, but she would prefer to listening to something else.
Yeah, I would say I kind of have the same thing. Yeah, so my girlfriend's actually sitting on the sofa right there, which is why I'm looking over. But she's giving me the death stare now. So she's like, hold on, I'll move the camera so you can see her. There she is wearing my nails T-shirt. But so she wears my nails T-shirt, but doesn't listen to nails. Ooh. I'm kind of like on. She's actually very good. Generally, whatever I listen to in the car, she's always like, I don't mind what you listen to. Just if I have a headache, then I expect you to turn it down. So I'm all right. I have friends where if one of my friends in particular, as soon as he turns anything on that his wife doesn't like, she just leaves the room. And I've always thought it's I would struggle with that, partly because I like playing my music really loudly. So someone wants to leave the room, there's a good chance they're going to be leaving the house.
But the thing is, like, my girlfriend listened to a lot of metal when she was younger. Apparently, we went to the same Cannibal Corpse tour back in 2000.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But she went to Trondheim to see them, and I saw them in Umeå. Yeah. And a lot of metal, but got fed up with it, and like outgrew it in some kind of way. And now
that's a weird thing too for me. I've always said when it comes to metal, I think there's a select number of us whom the music kind of chooses you. You don't choose the music. I think the people that grow out of it are the people that made a conscious decision to listen to it. I think there are some people that develop or that have such an emotional connection with the music, or at least such an emotional response. Like I said, it's like the music chose them, not the other way around. You know, like they always say, like great art chooses you. I think back to hearing In the Nightside Eclipse for the first time, for example. I can tell you exactly where I was, who was in the room, how old I was, the time of day, the day of the week, everything. I'll never forget it, even when I'm old and demented. But so question to you is, you're nowhere near to outgrowing it. I mean, I guess, after being into metal for as long as you have been, what kind of still keeps you in love with the genre? What keeps you kind of wanting to continue playing it?
It's still, I think so many good metal releases are coming all the time. The music is still good, and as long as it's still good, I will continue listening to it. And of course, like the classics, as you stated, like I think there are so many good records from like Sweden, Norway back in the days that I can continue listening to like over and over again, and I will never outgrow them. And then for like playing it, it's, as stated, it's super fucking fun. You can play really, like I helped a friend cracking some pop drums, and it was, of course, it was fun as well. But it's still like
you kept wanting to pull off and like, you can't stop blasting. Don't put that fill in there.
No, but exactly, it was actually like that. Hello, that thing you did. It sounded super cool, but please don't do that. And then we had to like retake everything. Now the thing is, like with this gift as well, I can play whatever I want. Like they don't. Hey, I feel like playing this fucking rhythm. I want to do this fill. I want to do this this thing, and they never. I can do exactly whatever I want, and that's the fun part of it.
So this increased sort of nuances, this, I guess, more musicality in this gift as a curse. I know we touched on it right before we started this call, and I kind of purposely started the call straight away so we could get onto this. But where does that come from? How did that evolution take place? I mean, when you guys write, for example, do you write by yourselves? Do you write in the band room? How does it work?
It depends. For the latest album, I stated, like David, the new guitar player, he wrote most of it. And of course, you can tell because it's different, and it's more like his style of things to actually do that. And he writes a lot back at home in his own apartment. But then we always like try stuff in the rehearsal place. Hello, Johan, I have this riff. What kind of drums do you think will fit here? And then we play it. And then often we just work things out. And then sometimes it's like, hey, this piece should be quite fast. This riff is shit, but I just play something here. And then I write a better one when I get back home. And that kind of sort of thing. So he tends to write ideas back at home, and then we try them out in the rehearsal.
And so, when it comes to listening back to the album, a couple of months after the release, what kind of stands out to you as the song that is the signature? This gift is a cursed track in 2019.
Oh, the signature! I think Gate Dweller is the best song on the album. So I would say that one. But if we would tie it to like the other records, I think maybe Blood Is My Harvest.
Yeah.
But I would say I like Gate Dweller the most. I think it's the best song.
And the artwork on the record, which by the way I absolutely loved, because it was kind of like the music. It was so unique. It was I think I can't remember whether I've actually posted about the album on the Into the Necrosphere Instagram yet, but just you hold it up to any kind of typical metal album cover and it just stands out immediately. It just looks completely different. Who did that for you? Who came up with the idea for that?
It's Jonas, our singer. He's been doing all the designs for everything we ever done since we started the band. So we're super lucky to actually have him. He's really good at fixing designs. He has really good ideas and like good thoughts about everything. So we give him completely free hands.
Yeah. Well, when I was listening to the record the other night, actually, I was on Order of Honor on my hi-fi system over here, and I pointed out, it's like, oh man, I really love the album cover to that. And my girlfriend actually told me, you've already said that to me 3 times, babe. So that's how much it stood out to me.
Yeah, but it's super convenient. I think he has really good ideas pretty much all the time, and it's super good at like getting his thoughts onto actual print, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we're really blessed about that.
So last show that you guys did was this past Saturday. What was it like playing live again after such a long time away?
It was super fun, but it felt strange.
Yeah.
It was like the first time I've been nervous behind the kit for aeons, it feels like. But strange. Like when we used to play a bit more like concerts before, you always felt, so to speak, you were never nervous about anything because we were so, I don't know the word in English, samspelt in Swedish, but
I'll do that on Google Translate and have that at the bottom of the screen.
Exactly. We're very like confident in playing with each other. But now like a year is quite a long time. But it turned out better than expected, to be honest.
And you say you guys have some additional dates lined up now?
Yeah, we are actually going out. We're playing a festival in Småland now on Saturday. And then we're doing 6 shows with Cult of Luna. Coming up in October.
Which is a great band for you guys to be supporting, because I think there's a lot of crossover there in terms of fans, and I think also maybe not music as much, and you may possibly scare some of their fans, but there's definitely kind of at least as far as atmosphere and the vibe of some of the Cult of Luna stuff, there's definitely some crossover there.
Yeah, and we've been listening to Cult of Luna for like, I stated the music is quite different from the music we play, but I think I saw Cult of Luna live the first time when I was 18 or something, and been listening to them since. I think they're an amazing band.
Yeah,
and like we got Johannes Persson from Cult of Luna is doing vocals on one of our songs, so we got to know them a bit, and he's a super nice guy, and I fucking love Thomas Edlund, one of the best drummers in the world. It's going to be so nice to actually see him play live.
Yeah. How did that guest spot on the album come about? Did he approach you? Did you guys approach him?
He's always like, been liking us as a band for some time and always buying shirts and everything. Like Jonas has been doing some designs from another band that's played in. So we asked them, and they said, normally I don't really do this guest thing anymore, but I like you guys, so let's give it a shot. And it felt like an honor.
Made an exception for you.
Yeah, it felt really, really nice.
Yeah. So one thing I was thinking about when I saw you guys had played live, and obviously I think I saw a clip that you posted on Instagram, but you can't really tell from that. But how difficult is it for you to recreate music that is this, at times at least, this frenetic and this layered? Because I mean, you guys have so much stuff going on any given song. Mm-hmm. How difficult is that to recreate live?
Not really play-wise. It works quite well, to be honest, but a lot of it is actually depending on the sound we get from the sound technician. Sometimes, it's quite of a hard soundscape to actually work with, and sometimes you don't get the nuances and everything out from it, and then I guess it's not that. Then it's most like just a of noise. But it would a good sound technician that actually knows how to pick out the guitars and everything, then I think it works quite well.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is actually depending on the sound we get out from the stage.
Yeah. And final question from me, we kind of touched on it right at the start of the conversation. You guys have very pronounced hardcore hardcore influences. There's a very pronounced kind of black metal influence there, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff that sort of enter into it as well. But those two being ones that really stick out. Where do you feel like this Gift is a Curse fits in as far as hardcore black metal? What would you say is the scene that you most embrace?
Yeah, it's a bit like, of course, speaking personally, I of course embrace the metal scene because I never listened that much to hardcore, and I think we're turning more and more to the metal scene, like gig-wise and that kind of thing as well. We get invited to more metal shows and like metal festivals and the kind of thing. But when we started out, it was a bit hard because we sounded a bit more hardcore then. So we were a bit too strange for the hardcore fans, like a bit too metal, and a bit too hardcore for the metal fans. Yeah. So it was this strange blur in between, and you felt, I felt strange. Didn't really feel at home somewhere.
You get on stage and people are watching you, but they don't really know what to make of you.
No, but exactly. Yeah. And we felt a lot of that, especially like the first years, like, hey, what the fuck? What is this? What are we watching? But I tend like the more and more, especially with the new album that is a bit more metal oriented, we're leaning more towards the metal side. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's the side I want to be in, at least.
Awesome. Okay. Well, look, that's as good a place as any to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Anything that you want to say before we say goodbye?
Yeah, thanks a lot for inviting me. It was super fun, and get sleep, get kids.
I was just about to say, get some sleep because it sounds like you're going to need it. Again, I'll never ever forget when my daughter was born. I brought her home, and I remember lying in bed looking at the watch, and it was like I think 11:15, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be one of those lucky parents where the kid sleeps through the night. And at 3:00 in the morning, crying began. And I picked her up, went downstairs. I sat with her. I did everything I could. I held the dummy in her mouth, sang, every trick under the sun, thinking this was going to be like a Hollywood moment where she calms down. By 8:15, she was still
living the dream.
Yeah. So I, as soon as you said 2 months, I was like, yeah, no, I know that 1,000-yard stare that you're going. Wait. Two things. Wait till she starts eating because the nappy composition changes quite dramatically, and also wait till she starts crawling because that's when all the shit in your house is now completely hers to destroy at her.
Yeah. I have to make my vinyl collection child safe. I will move it on top of some cupboards or something.
Very much so. All right, Johan, thank you so much for coming on the show. Great talking to you. And like I said, I absolutely love this band. I really, really hope I'll see you guys play in the UK at some point. But Failing that, really looking forward to hearing what you guys do next.
Thanks a lot. We will return to you. We've been to UK, I think, 2012 or something. But a long time ago, so we have to return.
I'd say, mate, 2020. As good a time as ever. It might be the apocalypse at some point.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe if you guys play in London, you'll invoke the apocalypse.
Yeah. We actually spoke about it. Nothing is certain, but maybe some dates in England next year.
Dude, I would love to see that, and I'd love to shake your hand in person. So take care of yourself. We'll speak again very soon.
The same to you.
All right, brother.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. thank you once again to Johan from This Gift is a Curse for taking the time to come and talk to me. That album, as I've mentioned before, is A Throne of Ash, out on Seasons of Mist Records, and I will post a link to it in the description of this video if you want to check it out. If you're not watching it and you are listening to the show instead on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever else, they are very easily found and well worth your time checking out. And they will almost certainly be featuring very prominently on my top 20 or best 20 records of this year. And I'll do an episode of that probably towards the middle of December with a guest who I will confirm soon. I know who it's going to be, but hopefully he can still make it. And when I know he can, I'll let you guys know. But I have to say, it is getting harder and harder to put together a top 20 list, in part because even though we're getting to the back end of the year, the new releases that are fucking tearing me a new one are coming in thick and fast. One of them being my first pick on this week's thrilling and illustrious edition of What I'm Cranking This Week. I am talking, of course, of the new Mayhem record, Demon. I have spoken about it on the show before, and in part because they released a couple of singles in the preamble to this record coming out. I enjoyed those singles a lot, but I did express my reservations at the time that perhaps this would be a little bit too much of a retread to them, or at the very least, too much of a band trying to recapture, what most people will consider their best album, which was De Mysteriis Dom Satanas, that came out in 1994. Now, the very good news is I can report very confidently that it is most certainly not a retread. And actually, very weirdly, I think that releasing those singles, I can see the point to having done so. I think that a lot of people would probably have really enjoyed those singles and gotten really psyched up about the album. But I think it's one of those records that you actually have to listen to end to really sort of get and really be able to digest properly. There is definitely a strong influence, or certainly a strong tip o' the hat to De Mysteriis Dom Satanas, in part because they've been touring that record for the last fucking 3-4 years now. And so, playing those songs every single night for, say, 100 dates out of a year, I mean, that is almost certainly going to impact on your songwriting. But that being said, as much as the record has a ton of really fast, aggressive, dark, grim sequences and sections, there's a lot of the sort of avant-garde, experimental, quirky, off-the-wall stuff that Mayhem's music has really sort of become known for over the last 2 albums, I'd say in particular. So if you were a fan of Ordo ad Chaos or Esoteric Warfare, both of which I absolutely loved, then you're not going to feel entirely lost on this record. I think what you'll find is most of what they present here is just a little bit more refined. And actually, speaking of refinement, the production on this album is probably the best I've heard on a Mayhem record. Everything is really clear. There's really great space between the instruments. Necro Butcher's bass is turned way up, which I really like. I know some people have commented on forums and in reviews that it sounds a bit strange. I don't know what they're on about, but I think it sounds really cool. And one thing I also have to mention is I think Attila, who in my experience, in my opinion, maybe alongside Mortis of Marduk, is the finest black metal frontman and vocalist, going today, to probably turns in a career best performance here. So I will play you a track, which in my opinion is one of the finest moments on this record, where I think he really shines as well. This is a song called Malum. That was Malum by Mayhem off the album Demon. It is available right now on Century Media. I know there's a bit of a delay with the physical versions coming out, if that's your thing. But either way, check it out on Tidal, Spotify, Qobuz, Google Music, iTunes, wherever it is you stream music from, and buy it when it comes out, because these guys deserve your support. And in my opinion, have turned in, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best albums of the year. Now, from one Norwegian legend to another, the new album by 1349, The Infernal Pathway, is another that has been getting some attention from me of late. 1349 is an interesting prospect as far as I'm concerned. So they're a band that are kind of, I can kind of take or leave depending on the record. Their first one, Liberation, that came out in 2003, I thought was okay, but I thought it was a bit monotonous. I thought the band really kind of came into their own on Beyond Apocalypse, or Beyond the Apocalypse, I should say. They came out in 2004. I thought Hellfire, that came out in 2005, was really great as well. Then they really kind of went off the boil with Revelations of the Black Flame. Came back with Demon Noir in 2010, which in my opinion is their best album. Then released a real kind of tawdry, middle of the road, just unfocused pile of shit, in my opinion, with Massive Cauldron of Chaos in 2014. Now, the good news is the Infernal Pathway really is kind of seeing them coming back to form. Unsurprisingly, it probably has a lot more in common with Demon Noir than it does Massive Cauldron of Chaos, not least of all the fact that it continues a lot of the same themes. So even the tunnel interludes or soundscape interludes that they had on Demon Noir are back. As a matter of fact, it's called Tunnel Offset, and it kind of continues the numerology as well. There are 3 of those on the record. I know on the Banger interview, Blaine was complaining that there's a kind of interlude between every single song. I don't know if he actually listened to the record. I really like Blaine, but and I like Blaine's reviews for the most part. But yeah, I think that was a slightly unfair criticism. I think if you listen to the record end to end, I think those soundscapes work really, really well. And this album on the main, I think is very good. It's much more thrash influenced than any of the stuff that 1349 have put out previously. I think that actually suits the band, because I think this is a band that can sometimes either get a little unfocused, as I said they did on Massive Cauldron of Chaos, or they can sound a bit monotonous when the focus is too much on kind of blasting. And yeah, the sound is very aggressive and very intense, but it's also a bit more nuanced. I like the production. I think it sounds a lot more forward and a lot more clear than anything that they've done, really. And I think the performances are all absolutely top notch. So another record I would recommend wholeheartedly. The only thing I would say is, why the fuck would you release a record like this so close to the new Mayhem? I mean, you are undoubtedly pitching it at the same audience, and then people are going to listen to the new. They're gonna get both around about the same time. I feel like maybe you're not giving the new 1349 the best opportunity to be noticed when you're bringing out something quite as hard hitting and colossal as the new Mayhem at the same time. When that's coming out at the same time, I should say, because they're on different record labels. But that's just my opinion. I would have maybe managed the timing of this record a little bit better. But again, one I would definitely recommend. This is one of my personal favorites on the album. It is a song that they released as a single prior to the record coming out. It is called Striding the Chasm.
From blood side, fight birds on special gods, fight a scourge.
That was Striding the Chasm by 1349 off of their 7th record, The Infernal Pathway, which is available right now on Seasons of Mist Records. If you're in the mood for black metal of the traditional Norwegian variety, check that out, or check out the next band. So my final pick for this week's what I'm cranking this week is a band called Djevel, and I apologize in advance to anybody who's offended by my butchery of the title of this record. I don't speak any Norwegian, or at least my Norwegian is limited to whatever bands I listen to that sing in their native tongue that come from Norway. But the record, as I read it, is called Ormer til Armer Mana til Hoda. Quite what that means, I have no fucking idea. But the record came out on Aftermath Music. It features Bard Faust, Ethan, he of Emperor fame, or at the very least, I should say, he of Emperor in the Nightside Eclipse fame. And his presence on there should kind of alert you, at least in part, to what this album is about. And I would actually go as far as to say, had this record come out at around the same time as that album, or even something like the Shadow Throne, it wouldn't have been entirely out of place. It is fast, it's grim, it is distinctly Norwegian, and I think unashamedly so. All of the lyrics are in Norwegian, but there's a lot of melody and a lot of atmosphere and a lot of variation. So if you like black metal that's raw, cult, necro, and just absolutely unapologetic in its love of tremolo picking riffs and blast beats, then this is definitely one to check out. I also need to mention these guys did a really funny post on Facebook when they played in London a couple of days ago, and they announced that they're about to provide the UK with the satanic Brexit it deserves. So I would assume that was intentionally funny, but I thought that was hysterical. Kudos to Djevel for releasing a fucking cool album. Kudos to Djevel for being pretty fucking funny at the same time while doing so. This is a record, or this is a song off the record. It is the title track, the first song off the album. Enjoy. Was Djevel off the album Ormer til Armer Mana til Hoda, the title track of the record. And if any one of my legion of Norwegian fans can hit me up and let me know how to pronounce that correctly, I would really appreciate it. But great record, available on Aftermath Records. Link in the description if you want to check it out, along with the link to everything else I've spoken about on this show. And it also brings me to the end of this week's installment of Into the Necrosphere. So thank you very, very much for watching or listening. Next week, for the first time ever, I am going to be featuring Jason Mendonça of the mighty Akrakoka. I make no bones about the fact that Akakaka are one of my favorite bands of all time. Jason is somebody I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the last couple of years, and dare say, someone who I can call a friend. I really enjoy talking to him, and we cover a lot of different topics, including, if you're interested, some updates on what's happening with new music and Akakaka at the moment. So some bait for you to check out the show next week. But anyways, until then, have a fucking kick-ass week. From the mean streets of Surbiton on the outskirts of London, I am signing off. Goodbye.